I'd say the majority of DJs playing in clubs and even DJs playing at the highest level, like playing festivals, Tomorrowland and all that, I'd say the majority are playing pre-planned sets. Now, not only do I see this again and again in the local scene, but I've also seen big DJs playing in different states, and both times they have played the exact same list of songs in the same order. Now, personally, there is nothing wrong with pre-planning a set, and the advantages of doing so is that you can put together something really special, showcasing your skills, but the disadvantage is what happens if you turn up and let's say, for instance, right, you've got the exact group of songs that you play, you practice doing it over and over, right? And then let's say then the DJ before you plays half your songs, or perhaps your set isn't getting the best response, or maybe the DJ after you didn't even show up and they ask you to play for like another hour, or, you know, and you've just got that list of songs. So for this reason, right, if you are planning to prepare a set, I would always suggest over preparing big time. So let's say you can get through 20 songs in the hour that you're playing, prepare 50. And in a perfect world, you may get to play your set like 1 through to 20. But let's say I'm jamming, okay, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in my playlist. And let's say at track 5, I just go a little bit heavier maybe, or maybe even more commercial. Let's say, okay, I'll go more commercial. And let's say all of a sudden that clears the dance floor. And then track 6, 7, and 8 in my playlist are even more commercial songs. And that I was using number 5 to go into a little bit of a run of commercial music. And let's say that night they didn't like the commercial stuff. And I'm like, well, if they don't like 5, they're not going to like 6, 7, and 8. So what I might do is then I might jump to a safer point in my playlist. So I'm like, oh, okay, track 10, I kind of brought it back and they seem to be liking that kind of music more. So maybe I go number 5. I know they're not going to like the other ones based on the response of track 5. I might jump to another point. Let's say I go to track 10 and then I might pick it back up my playlist. I might go 10, 11, 12, 13. And now all of a sudden I might think, oh, but now the 13 was a little bit more commercial. Maybe they like it now, and then jump to another point. And what I'm doing is I'm just jumping around a big playlist, but wherever I go, I've got combinations of songs. But here's the thing, I want to go into a quick story on that. And that is, I was playing like every single week, right, for a long time. And I remember once, like when the EDM scene was really big, right, probably about several years ago now, and the energy at the clubs was amazing. And I remember there I was playing. And one week I played and I just put together the best set ever. And sure, I was freestyling around my playlist, but I did have lots of cool song combinations and the crowd was loving it, right? And then I was so inspired. So then I went and reworked it, brought in all these new songs, and I put together what I thought was the best set that I've ever done in my life. And I turned up that night to play it, okay? And the DJ before me kind of went off what the venue usually did. And what he did was he was playing a lot more commercial stuff, so a lot more commercial mashups, as usually the venue is a little bit more heavy and underground. Now, I'm not ripping on that DJ at all. He did a great job, and perhaps it was maybe a lot of his friends, but maybe it was also a unique crowd that night, and maybe he was playing to the crowd. But all I know is I came onto a really full dance floor, everyone having a lot of fun, singing all these songs, and I came on with my playlist, and I'll be honest, it was too serious. I could see by the response on the dance floor, and all of a sudden, I was putting on songs, no one was really cheering. I could see people going off to the bar. I could see people going to the bathroom. And my dance floor was getting thin. And I was faced with a predicament. I was like, well, do I continue with my pre-planned set that isn't working? Or do I deviate from my plan? Because obviously if it's not working, I keep going with it. It's going to destroy my floor. So I thought, okay, I've got to deviate from the plan. And the truth is, I've played lots of clubs and events in my life, so I did have some more commercial music on hand. And what I did was, I went then to the commercial stuff. And I'll be honest, I rebuilt my dance floor. But then the thing is, I had prepared a really good set that I wanted. So what I did was, I tried to then go from the commercial and bring a bit of my sound into it. So I tried to go to that set a little bit. But instead of going commercial heavy, that might just kind of isolate the crowd a little bit, I try and find what I would call a bridge song. So that means a song that kind of is like on the way to heavy. And let's say they don't respond to my bridge song, I'd go back to commercial for a bit, and then I might try another song to bridge. And let's say then I managed to cross the crowd, across the bridge from commercial into heavy. But then let's say I get onto the other side, right, and I'm playing all the heavy stuff. I'd have to be careful though how long I stay on that side, because if I keep now, say I've managed to go into heavy, Well, if I stay playing heavy too long, I might isolate my crowd from the people into commercial that are willing to put up with 1 or 2 heavy songs to just the people into heavy music. So what I'd do is, knowing it's a little bit more of a commercial night, I'd then cross over into heavy, bring a bit of my sound into it, but I'd probably bring it back and go into a bit of commercial. I'd try and find a balance between commercial and heavy music. So that means playing what the crowd want that night, but also trying to keep a little bit of my own style to it. So I think that's actually really important, and that's going to be what actually separates, in my opinion, a good DJ from a bad DJ, and that is your ability to be flexible. Now, sure, it's great if you don't have to prepare a set at all, and this means you can just turn up with the right kind of music for that event, but to do this, you are going to have to research the event big time in advance and basically be very clear on what works, what doesn't, and also be very clear on the promoter's goal for the event. For instance, right, you're not going to want to turn up to a party club with and basically start playing all the latest Beatport, electro house chart, or tech house and techno and all that, or vice versa. You don't want to turn up to a techno club and start playing the latest pop songs. So if you have the right kind of music for that event, you can definitely freestyle, and that means go with the flow and play based on the crowd's reaction. However, I would like to share another story with you quickly to give you a little bit of perspective. So when I was playing every single week, there was a DJ I used to share lineups with all the time. Now, personally, I loved, this is where I came from, I loved being prepared, and I had super big playlists full of really cool songs, and yes, I read the crowd, but wherever I went in that playlist, I had magic combinations prepared that I could always fall back on. As the other DJ, honestly, he never prepared playlists. He just turned up with the right kind of music every week. Now, if he was having a good night, right, so he's just in tune with the crowd and basically was feeling the audience, he was honestly amazing, like an insane DJ, as he was purely feeding off the crowd and playing off the crowd's response to songs. However, if he did have an off night, right, he had nothing to fall back on. And this honestly made him a little bit inconsistent. So sometimes he was amazing, and sometimes his sets were kind of average. As with me, by preparing, I could always turn up with sets that were world class, and for that reason, I often was billed as the headliner. Now, personally, I suggest for you having really big sets planned with more songs than you could possibly play in a night. And I'd simply jump around the set, feeling the crowd, playing what's right for that moment. But wherever you go in your set, you have got amazing combinations and transitions that you've practiced and they've been rehearsed, and that you can go back to them, you can go to that. And that means you're going to have a standard and, again, something to fall back on if the going gets tough. However, this video is mainly talking to the DJs out there wishing to play at clubs and events, or basically DJs playing on a lineup with other DJs. So if you are playing all night, when it's about turning up with the right kind of music, there's no doubt, as I mentioned in an earlier video, when playing all night, I would just be turning up with my music, probably sorted into 2 main playlists. So I'd have an early and peak playlist with 100 songs in each, most likely in no particular order, and I would 100% be reading the crowd. Now, sure, this sounds super scary, right? But in my opinion, it's the long sets that really force you to grow as a DJ, and I honestly cannot suggest them. You've got to try it. I cannot recommend them highly enough. So if you have a show anyway coming up, and let's say you're nervous and you're not sure if your club's ready, the best way to hone your skills is to record your rehearsals and make some mixes with the goal of basically listening back to your set and finding ways you can improve. And I know when I had big sets that were really important to me, I used to then prepare all my music, get all my transitions done, and then what I'd do is I'd record myself, listen back to it, pick up on areas I thought were great, find areas that I can improve. And I think I mentioned this in an earlier video too, but I remember once I had a really important show coming up, and I ended up recording this mix 5 times in 5 ways, and by the 5th time, not only did I have a set I was really happy with, but I had 5 different ways of playing all these songs. And then when I turned up to play, not only, I knew all the material back to front, right? I didn't actually keep, I remember this, I didn't keep to the exact songs, but just doing that process of preparing a playlist, practicing, recording, listening back, doing that over and over, I honestly think that is the best way to get club ready. So anyway, go with what your intuition says. Either way, being prepared, there's no better feeling than having a lot of songs to choose from and having sets so you can fall back on. It's gonna really help.